Good morning. I'm Charlotte Jones, co-host of the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock on WJZZ Cool TV. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former world-class athlete, conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, a longtime civil rights crusader, and author of 7 books, Creative Insubordination, What Old Men Know, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, The Poet Emperor of Earth, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, plus another upcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. His books are available on Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy, a recipient of the City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year, and a Detroit track is named for him. His email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's dr.johntelfordedd@aol.com. Dr. Telford also has a show on WCHB AM 1340 that airs on Saturdays at 9:30 in the morning and Mondays at 6:30 in the evening. That's on WCHB AM 1340, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. And now, without further ado, I present to you that old native Detroiter, the one and only Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Charlotte Jones, that wonderful intellectual author of A Ain't Always for Apple. A Ain't Always for Apple. I don't know if you're showing the book or not, but A Ain't Always for Apple.
I see it.
My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And there's a new sky dawning on Detroit today because we've got Dr. Claude Tiller in the studio today. And he took some time from his busy job as assistant superintendent for high schools in the Detroit Public Schools Community District to come and talk about track and field. Track and field. So we've just been joined by somebody. I don't know what's going on here. What's happening here? Oh my goodness. We're going to have to do this next week, I think. I don't know what happened. Yeah, my mistake, my error. You know, that was a young lady that I guess I invited on the show a long time ago, and I did not remember. An 86-year-old memory. An 86-year-old memory. Man, I am mortified. But we will have her on. We'll have her on next week, and we'll be interviewing her. So anyway, you know, after that disconcerting interruption, which was my fault, we have got Claude Tiller. We're going to be talking about track. Claude was a quarter miler at Cooley High School, all-state quarter miler, ran a 48.6 quarter mile at Cooley High School, and before that he was a quarter miler at St. Martin de Porres High School. And by George, he ran a 48.5 at St. Martin de Porres, and he won the state championship for St. Martin de Porres. And then Claude Tiller went to the University of Michigan and popped off, that means led off, the first leg on a 1-mile relay team that ran 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Wow. Breaking the record of that was set by one of my kids, you know, Reggie Bradford, who ran on the relay team that ran 3 minutes and 7 seconds. But, you know, that time will win 99% of mile relay races today. Claude, when did you run that race?
That was in 1986.
1986. Yeah, good Lord, man. The years are going by, aren't they?
Yes.
You were running in the 80s, I was running in the 50s. 30 years difference. But and before I forget, I promised Tyrone Winfrey that I would make this announcement again because the events are upcoming now very, very, very soon. Detroit Public Schools Community District Assistant Superintendent Tyrone Winfrey asked me to read this announcement. Let's get ready, Tyrone says. Let's get ready as we proceed in the transformation of the Detroit Public Schools Community District. We are asking Detroit Public Schools alumni to come home to Detroit Public Schools Community District. Late in the merry month of May, Detroit Public Schools Community District, in partnership with the Detroit Public Schools Foundation, will host an extensive series of events entitled the Come Home Series of Events. The Come Home Alumni Hall of Fame Gala, it's called. The Come Home Alumni Hall of Fame Gala and Alumni Weekend, which is upcoming on Thursday, May the 19th, at 7 o'clock p.m. We start with an evening of fine arts at the Fox Theater. And then on Friday, May the 20th, at 11 o'clock a.m., alumni will participate in high school visits at select schools and enjoy a meet and greet at 5 o'clock at the Detroit Athletic Club. On Saturday, May the 25th, there will be an alumni bike ride on Livernois at noon. And then at 2 o'clock p.m., there will be a Taste of Livernois party between Cambridge and West Outer Drive. And on Sunday, May the 22nd, there will be a worship service with alumni at 12 selected faith-based institutions.
Wow, they've got a lot going on.
Oh, yeah. And then on Sunday, there will be an alumni celebration that will begin at 4 o'clock p.m. on the red carpet outside Huntington Place downtown. Stay for an epic afternoon that will initiate the DPS Alumni Hall of Fame. Ticketed events are the Friday meet and greet at the Detroit Athletic Club and the Sunday reception at Huntington Place. For further information, contact Tyrone Winfrey or Jasmine Stallworth at 313-873-6890. That's 313-893-6890, or go to DetroitK12.org. Come home. That's DetroitK12.org. Come home.
Something for everybody.
Something for everybody. And now, without further ado, we are going to interview Dr. Claude Tiller, who was a stellar quarter miler, which was also my race, 30 years earlier. And let me, while I'm talking about Dr. Claude Tiller, I want to show this photograph up here, because this is a picture taken 30 years ago of Dr. Claude Tiller when he was running at the University of Michigan. And Claude, when you popped off that relay team, what was the time that you ran?
That was a indoor, oversized track called the Last Chance meet in Arizona. And it was a 300-meter track. And I ran 47.8.
Indoors?
Indoors.
Oh, man, you were flying indoors.
Yes. It was, I had to. It was, I was a freshman. I was popping off, so I had to make sure. We were the only cold weather school there. That's why it was called the Last Chance. It was the last chance right before Nationals to qualify. And I was with SMU and Baylor and Auburn and all the schools that ran outdoors all year round. They were there, so I was very, very nervous.
Yeah, well, you're running against all the big guys.
Yeah.
I was used to doing that too, Claude. I did it quite a few times. Tell us, well, actually, what was your best quarter mile time? Let me give us that. Let's put that on the air.
Unofficially, it was roughly around 46, low 46s.
Yeah, well, that is flying, folks, in case you don't know what quarter mile times are. And I don't mind saying that he was running in my vicinity, because I was running 46 also. That was 30 years earlier. Okay, tell us about the beginning of your track career. You know, you wanted us to ask you about the beginning of your track career.
It's very track. Usually, people don't choose track. That's what's very interesting. My track chooses you.
You're right.
And because it's a tough. That's all you do is run.
Yeah.
So you have to go through a certain amount of pain on a regular basis. That's what people don't understand. Well, what happened was my father, back when I was 6 and 7 years old, he had a vision. He didn't want me to get banged around, so he didn't want football. He didn't put a basketball in my hand. So
wise advice.
So what he did was, Palmer Park, which is a park here in Detroit, he had me run a mile every Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday.
When you were 6?
When I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Behind his car.
Wow.
And he had a vision. I cried every single time. I cried and looked over at Mother, and Mother, she just shrugged her shoulders and said, "Hey, that's your dad. Go ahead."
Was he an athlete too?
No.
He was in the car.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But I mean, when he was young, was he an athlete?
No,
okay.
he was. They said my uncle told me that he was a heck of a shortstop.
Oh, okay.
So baseball player.
Yeah, that was my game too. I loved baseball, and I know what you mean about track. Names you, it recruits you.
Yeah.
Because when I was at Northwestern High School, I wanted to play baseball, and they wouldn't let me play baseball because they timed me for 40 yards in 4.5. And the minute they did that, they said, "No, this kid is not playing baseball. You're going to run track." I didn't want to run track, but I did.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I didn't either. Yeah. So, and on that, and I had to run a certain time. He kept a certain time for my mile. He would time me at the half mile point and at the ending of the mile point. And I had to beat the previous week's time in order for me to get my allowance.
Oh, no.
So he had some financial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was my introduction into unofficial track. And then 8th grade at Precious Blood school that later became St. Martin de Porres.
Oh, yeah.
There was an announcement that they was going to have a track team. And everybody looked I'll never forget, everybody turned around in the class and looked at me. Because I was always running, want to race somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I was too when I was a kid, but I wanted to play baseball. And of course, my father wanted me to box. My father was a professional boxer, but that's a whole different story. But anyway, tell us how you came to run the 400 meters, because that is a terrible race. You know, I'll tell you know how hard that race is if you run it right. And you know, I didn't lose in high school. I lost 1/4 mile race. That was the only race I ever lost, and I hated the race. I always ran the 100 and 220. But when I went down to Wayne State on a track scholarship, the coach asked me, "Do you want to be conference 100-yard champion, or do you want to be national 1/4 mile champion?" And I told him, "I want to be conference 100-yard champion. I don't want any part of that 1/4 mile. I hated it." He said, "Well, son, I got news for you. You know, you are going to be a 1/4 miler." And I'm holding up this picture because we're showing action pictures of each other. And this is a picture that I ran a race. I think it wasn't a real fast race. It was only about 47.5, somewhere in there, 47.3. But it was at U.D. Stadium, and you know that stadium's been torn down now. They don't even have that stadium anymore. But this was me running a 1/4 mile race when I was running for Wayne State University. I think back in this picture was probably taken 1955 or 1956. So anyway, how did you come to run the 1/4 mile? I told you how I came to run it. I came to run it very unwillingly, but how did you come to run it?
Well, almost the same route, but it was more or less through two means. It was through embarrassment, because when the 8th grade track coach came on. He didn't know how to coach. So, but I started out, I want to run the 100.
Me too. I always ran the 100. I ran
Exactly.
100 all. I loved the 100. 10 seconds and it's over. 10:1 actually was my best high school time, but
So
it's over in 10 seconds.
he said I'm not a 100-meter runner. So my mother, who was standing, she came to every track.
I'm talking about 100 yards when I said I ran 10:1.
Okay.
You know, I ran 100 meters in 10:4, but that was years later. Anyway, I had to make sure people understood. I didn't say I ran 100 meters in 10:1 because I never did. 100 meters is 10 yards farther than 100 yards. We used to run 100 yards in the old days in the Detroit Public Schools. Okay, I interrupted you, but go ahead.
Well, let me do this.
Oh, it's time
You're
for-
watching WJZZ live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay.
And Claude, you were telling us about how you came about running the quarter mile.
So the coach there, he said, my mother came out and, he said, well, Claude is not going to be a good runner, or Claude is not a real runner. I have a girl that can beat Claude. So he put the girl up against me, and I beat her, but not barely.
Yeah.
So he put me in the 800 meters.
How old were you then?
I was in the 7th grade.
7th grade. Okay, 12 years old.
12 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he put me in the 800, and what I ran the 800 a lot. Came in 6th place, 7th place, and then went on to run summer track with Motor City Track Club, and ran the 800, 800, 800 all the time. So I had 2 years of the 800 until my 8th. When I was in the 8th grade, I caught tendonitis. Right in the crease of my foot where it bends.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to give me cortisone shots.
Oh, man.
So anytime I went over a lap, it would just inflame almost to the point where I had to stop.
Yeah.
So that made me drop down to the 400 meters. But I had been running years worth of 800.
Okay.
So when I dropped down to the 400 meters, then it was not that tough. So I became state champ in the 8th grade. I won 3 gold medals at University of Michigan that day. And that's how I
This
come.
was age group track?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you started real early.
Yes.
That's
yes.
how you
Yeah.
found your race. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I came up in the household that the devil's mind is, idle mind is a devil's workshop. So you could not come home and not do something. So you had to do an extracurricular something. So I played the piano. I didn't care for that, but track, since my father made me run so much, I just naturally fell into that.
Yeah, fathers are that way, They, my father had me boxing in the backyard, and he would pay kids to knock me down. I mean, it was, I could tell it's a whole long story, but anyway.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but, so, in my case, even though I was a very unwilling trackman to begin with, track really changed my life. I owe my entire life to the sport of track and field. And this is why, I'm trying so hard to get that domed stadium to put a track in it that they're going to put at Chandler Park. I went and talked to that group. I was their keynote speaker about a month ago, and I took that opportunity to say, let's please get a track. That was over at the District 4. That's where Chandler Park is. And there's a dome field house, $12.6 million dome field house coming up. The mayor announced that. And I've been pushing the mayor very hard, Letitia Johnson, who is the councilwoman for that district, very hard, and Mary Sheffield, who's the president of the council, to please get a track and grandstands, bleachers into that building, so that we can have age group track and high school track for Detroit Public Schools Community District, and post high school, college, post high school, the whole 9 yards. Because my old coach David L. Holmes was waiting for that track from 1917 to 1958 when he retired, and he never got it at Wayne State, but now he got a chance to get it there. So a track, is a sport that I really owe everything that I ever accomplished to, because if it hadn't been for track and field, I wouldn't have got a college education. And I'm sure that in your case, you could probably say the same thing.
Sure. It would not be Dr. Claude John Teller Jr. if it wasn't for track and field. In fact, I use track going down to, even in the kitchen. For example, when I'm measuring, when I'm baking, I like to bake, and when I measure things, they say 1/4 of a teaspoon. Well, I know that's one. So that's a quarter. And they say, well, if you have to put in a half or something, I know that's 2, because that's a half mile. They say you have to put in 3/4. I know that's 3 laps before you get to the mile. So everything I have equated to track. When you run the quarter, it's 3 stages. It's the beginning, it's the middle, and the end. And that's how I interview. That's how I go through life. I start out, I get out strong. And then I cruise into that back stretch. And then I set up and I come home very strong. So everything I have equated to track. Even my mentors, Robert Lynch, who's my surrogate father, and he picked me up. And Lafayette Evans, those 2 coaches. Without Lynch, Coach Lynch saw me when I was in the 8th grade, and he picked me up and coached me ever since I was in the 8th grade. And I'll share this now because I have embraced it. When my father left my mother to raise me when I was in high school, Coach Lynch doesn't even know this. He became my surrogate father. Okay. He took me home every single day after practice. For 3 years I was at. He groomed me, made me. So if it wasn't for him as well, I wouldn't be Dr. Tiller. So he has been a very influential part of making who I am today.
And a lot of people don't know how these coaches and teachers, step up and help out. It seems like a little thing that they do, but that's their time and their money and their effort. And so those things go unnoticed so much, and you're giving him his accolades now, and that's appreciated by him, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, agreed. In fact, he's the current, I see him every day now because he's 85 years old and he's still coaching. He's over at Frederick Douglass in Troy Public Schools Community District, where my bonus son goes now, and I put him in that school. So he coaches my bonus son.
What's your son run? What's his name, and what does he run?
Damon Emerson, and he runs the quarter.
He's running the quarter,
Yes.
just like, all right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Lafayette Evans, also in the Army, he ran a 48-1, I think, a 48 quarter mile. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Lafayette ran a 48 quarter mile. For the listeners and watchers, Lafayette Evans was the district athletic director. We've had a lot of quarter milers being district athletic directors. We also had, he's in this picture here too. This guy was the district athletic director. That's Roy Allen. Roy Allen was district athletic director. So the quarter mile is a test of men. Let me tell you, a test of women too. Anybody who runs that race. So tell me. You gave me this question. What do you owe to the sport of track and field? I think you kind of covered that, but you could maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so what I owe is completely everything. It taught me how, especially running the quarter, it teaches you how and grooms you to how to be a man and the fortitude that you need to be a man and fight the struggles that's out here in the world. When I had my full scholarship to the University of Michigan, my roommates, about 98% of them that we came in as a cohort group, they did not finish at Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
But track kept me there, and running the quarter kept me there because to this day, there's nothing, and I say this to anybody, if I put my mind to, there's nothing I can't accomplish.
Amen. Amen. I sent 3 of my kids to Michigan. Reggie Bradford from Pershing, and John Lockhart, also from Pershing, my high jumper, 6'5". He was state regional, and Reggie, of course, was on the state mile relay champion team, and then ran on the team that broke the record at Michigan, which you broke. Your guys broke that record, and Glenn Dowdy. I sent Glenn Dowdy, one of my sprinter quarter milers, to Michigan, who later played for the Baltimore Colts. Who was your coach at the University of Michigan? Who coached you?
Kent Bernard.
Yeah,
KB,
one,
from Trinidad and Tobago.
oh yeah, one hell of a quarter mile.
Yeah.
I think it was Kent Bernard who broke my Michigan AAU quarter mile record of 47.3. That was a meet record. He took it down to 46.9, and he did it on a track at Wayne State. They had just got that track. Kent Bernard. Yeah, he was from Trinidad, Tobago.
Yes, he was, and he was in Olympics. I think he got third place in Olympics.
Olympic
He was-
medalist.
yeah,
Wow.
Olympic medalist. So he was a good track coach.
So, okay, let's see. We've talked about, okay, talk a little bit about the coaches who were influential in your track and field endeavors. Talk a little bit about them.
Sure. I touched base on that, but we want to start off with Coach Robert Lynch, who saw something in me and nurtured me ever since I was in 8th grade. He pulled me over to St. Martin de Porres, where he was the head track coach at the time. And like I had said before, saw me, nurtured me. I was also a smart student, so I was 3.0 and above. So he saw that in me as well. And then my junior year, he left St. Martin de Porres and went to Murray Wright. At that time, we did not want to go over to Murray Wright. It was way out of my district. But I went on to Lafayette Evans at Cooley, my 1985. Went over there, and
I bet that 48.6 would still be the record if there was a Cooley. You ran 48.6 for Cooley when you made All-State. I bet that would still have been the record. They phased that school out.
they sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did. Phased a lot of good
Been
schools
phasing
out.
too many schools out. You know, these charter schools have been, growing up like weeds.
Yeah.
I've always been opposed to the idea of the charter school, but I guess we have to live with them. But yeah, I can remember that I'm the poet in residence, as you know, for the Detroit Public Schools Community District, and the school that used to be Murray Wright, which is now what school is
Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass. I'm getting bad today, and I also forgot that this lady was supposed to be on the show. We're getting really bad. Maybe I'm getting senile. I don't know, but I do my poetry out in the high schools. I share my poems, but at Frederick Douglass, my team teacher is Curia Gore, who's married to Tim Gore, who I was with at Finney High School. But I'm doing my poetry there, and I had you come and talk to my kids at Frederick Douglass, and by George, what do you do but you read a poem, and it was a poem that motivated them, and I'm going to ask you to share that poem with my listeners if you can remember that poem. I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but you had it memorized.
Yeah, sure. And how I preface this is, growing up, I think about these young men these days, and who doesn't like? I was a young ladies' man, so I always kept poetry in my head because everybody else was doing something different. So I would always keep this poem in my head for special young ladies that I would say, and I would always captivate them.
Yeah, you probably say it to more than one young lady.
Oh
too,
yeah,
I
sure. It was yeah.
It's pickup line.
Yes,
Pickup point.
yes. When you're a track star and you all city, all state, and captain of the track team, you have some membership does have its privileges.
Yeah, it also has trouble. You get in trouble with that too. But that's the way it goes.
So I used to say this to him, and that's how I used it. I would walk up to a young lady, or I would know. I said, "Would you like me to read you some poetry?" She said, "Sure." She said, "Sure." I said, I would start off like this. I said, "I do believe that God above created you for me to love. He picked you out of all the rest because he knew I would love you best. If you should die and go up there, I'll wait for you by the golden stair. If you're not there by judgment day, I know you're gone the other way.
Yeah,
I give the angels back their wings, their golden ropes and everything. Just to prove my love is true, I would go through hell to be with you."
Sucky.
Oh, man.
All right, now you're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. I've got nothing after that poem, so go ahead.
Well, I got a poem. I mean, I gotta answer with a poem now.
Yes.
But we're supposed to be doing track poems, so our track discussion.
Oh, right.
So let me. This poem is called "Rare Relayist Reginald." That's the title of this poem. Now, this is a poem about Reggie Bradford, who was one of my top quarter milers at Pershing High School. Matter of fact, I don't know what happened to that. No, I gave you that. Give me this column for a minute. Yeah, these are my Pershing kids. These are some of my Pershing champions, and Reggie's in that picture somewhere. I'm not going to point it out because I don't even know if you can find. I don't know how well this picture is even showing up there, but I wrote a poem about Reggie Bradford because he did something kind of unusual one time. Of course, he did a lot of things that were unusual, but this was really unusual because it was in a relay race. And that's why I call this poem Rare Relayist Reginald. And here is the poem. Most would surely deem this strange. Reggie Bradford lost a shoe at the final stick exchange. It raised a hell of a hullabaloo. But with his customary flair, he won the race with 1 foot bare. And that's a true story. The race was a mile relay, the 1966 East Side Championships.
Okay.
And gutsy old Reg running anchor for Pershing High, cut his foot up pretty bad because those were the days we weren't running on those grass tech tracks that you were running on. We were running on dirt and cinder. And if you got a couple little sharp cinders and you're running for all around the track in 50 seconds, you cut your foot up.
So here, let me correct you on that, Doc. Cooley had a cinder track. That's why we always won when we went out to the suburbs.
Oh, yeah.
And we ran on a smooth track.
Yeah.
We had nothing but cinders and rock. We used to have to go out there and clear bottles away.
And your spikes that long.
Exactly.
You're dragging in the dirt.
Spikes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So what do? You have to change spikes to little needle spikes?
Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So that's why people don't understand why we won all the time. It's because we ran on cinder tracks. So when we got to a nice warm weather and we got on those new tracks that they have, I used to say to myself, well, the record's going down today. Because it was like running on something spongy.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to... Can I do another poem?
Sure.
Okay, I'm asking him for permission.
Yes, your show. Right.
It's my show. But this one is about my state quarter miler at state champion quarter miler. Before I coached at Pershing, I coached at Finney. I was state champion there, and I coached before Finney. I coached at Southeastern, and I had a state champion there in 1963, and that was a kid named George Wesson. And we had just got back into the state meet. I don't know if you know, Claude, but between the 1930s and the 1960s, they did not allow Detroit Public Schools in the state meet because we had John Lewis and the great Olympic champion from Cass Tech. Man, I'm getting so bad. I'll think of his name before this show is over. Eddie Tolan, who won the 100 and 200 in 1932. We were winning everything. So they said, well, just let Detroit have their own track meet, which really wasn't fair, but that's what happened. Cliff Hatcher, my best friend Cliff Hatcher, who ran with me on a mile relay champion team at the Penn Relays and at the Ohio Relays, and ran 48.8 in the quarter mile in 1951 for Central High School. Never got to run in the state meet, but that 48.8 was the fastest quarter mile time ever run in the state of Michigan when he did it in 1951. And I didn't get to run. I had the longest long jump, 22 feet, 11 3/4 inches. I had the fastest 2:20, 22 seconds flat. That doesn't sound real fast now, but it was on dirt, and it wasn't 200 meters. 220 is a little farther than 200 meters. And we also had Henry Carr, the great Henry Carr, probably the fastest human being who ever lived. Tied the world record for 220 yards when he was at Northwestern High School. He was a senior at Northwestern High School. There's only one other sprinter ever did that. That was Jesse Owens from Cleveland East Tech in 9.4. But Henry Carr ran a 20-flat 220-yard dash when he was in high school and tied the world record. Never got to run in the state meet. So the Northwestern High School record was a world record, but he didn't have the state record, which was something like, I don't know, 22 something in those days. But anyway, I was going to read this poem about George Wesson. You know, he was and he was a state champion too, way before you. But he ran 49 seconds flat, and when we got back into the state meet, he took the record down a couple seconds. You know, 2 or 3 seconds, I think, because he ran 49 seconds flat. And here's the poem: that wondrous George Wesson, we just have to bless him. In Lansing, he outran the best in the state, in spite of the 17 pork chops he ate. Because George just, man, that kid loved to eat. And sometimes it was a little bit too close to race time, you know. So I always had to kind of watch him, you know, when we were...
You was his coach?
I was his coach.
Okay.
Yeah, I coached George at Southeastern. I coached... that was the first time I was a coach. No, wait a minute. I assisted at Denby, my alma mater. Matter of fact, I had a couple good quarter milers there too. Both of them won the city. Kid named Lenny Sircodi won the city, and a kid named I'm gonna have to start writing notes for this.
You should have remembered those times, though.
Yeah, I remember the time of my second kid, and I can't bring up his name. Kid first name was Bobby. He ran a 50.5, and won the city. Oh man, I could kick myself in the butt for not being able to remember this.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you got any questions you want to ask?
Actually, we're going to touch on that. I was one of yours. You said, how has track changed? Now, I remember coming up, my mother tried to have a little team. She loved sports. We dealt with Rex Washington over at the Parks and Rec on the Boulevard, which is right next to Northwestern. There was an office over there. And we used to race against the Striders, and you mentioned the Motor City team. My uncle ran. I can't remember what team he ran for, but I know he went to Cass, so he ran for them. His name is Leon Lockheed. So, you know, it's been in our lives, and I see it's different now because my grandsons are running. I have one that does a relay, and then one yesterday he did cross country, and he was like, well, I did better than I did last week. So but it's different now. So how do you feel?
Well, what's going on now is different because track coaches that were groomed by Coach Lynch and Lafayette Evans, for example, Dr. Willie White and Thomas Welcher, they have decided no longer to coach.
Okay.
So you have a lot of coaches now that don't know how to coach track. Okay. And they weren't groomed by such track coaches as Dr. Telford, Robert Lynch, and Lafayette Evans. So they don't know. I watch them, as I mentioned, my bonus son, he runs track, and I watch them when they do the 4x1, and they don't know how to mark the steps, and they don't know how to take a blind exchange on a 4x1. They do a 4x4 relay exchange on a 4x1, some of them. And those of you who know track, you know you have to take a blind exchange when you run it 4x1 because it's so quick and you have to mark your steps down. So they just don't know what they just don't know. Okay. So the golden age of track is still here, but it wasn't as prevalent because, and then you're dealing with a lot of specialization. So now you're dealing with AAU. So you had AAU basketball doing track season. You have basketball. Everybody's focusing in on their sport. Kids that think they're going to get a scholarship in football, that's all they do is concentrate, lift weights all year round. So it's taken away from track. Back in the day when I was coming up, the coaches all told you everybody had to run track because track was the basis. Because you got to run everywhere you go. You got to run in football. You got to run in basketball. So track was the basis for everything. But it's not so the case anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Will Robinson, I remember, the great Will Robinson. You know, I coached with him at Pershing. I was the track coach and he was the basketball coach. But he sent his basketball kids to run on my track team, And I actually coached cross country there then too, and they ran on my cross country team. It was quite a sight to see Spencer Haywood running cross country, because he was weighing about 235 pounds, but he ran cross country. He was 6 feet 9 inches tall, running cross country, and of course in track he was a lot better. You know,
Right.
he high jumped. I think it was around 6'3", and he put the shot 51 feet. That shot looked like a little baseball in his hand, and he threw it almost like 51 feet. You know, but the kids. They should be running. Everyone should be running track. You're absolutely right about that.
I agree.
If they're not playing baseball,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
I wanted to play.
You gotta run in baseball too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do. You know, I play baseball. You know, street baseball. You know, playground baseball.
Yeah.
From sun up to sundown. You know, from the age of 7 or 8 until I got to high school, and that's when, of course, at Northwestern they timed me in 40 yards, and that was it. Same thing happened at Denby. I got put out of Northwestern and sent to live with my father, and I was at Denby, and same thing happened. Coach said you had to run track, but that was good. That was a good thing. You know, we were talking about Henry Carr, and you know, this ostensibly is a poetry program, but I don't usually do much poetry in it because I'm always interviewing somebody. But I have a poem about Henry Carr that I would like to read. I call it The Great Gray Ghost. The Great Gray Ghost, because use the word gray because the colors of Northwestern High School for which Henry ran, he ran at Northwestern High School, are red and gray. And incidentally, let me commend the Detroit Public Schools Community District for putting the name Northwestern back on the school Northwestern, because we were campaigning for quite a while to make that happen. And since I'm on that topic, you know, and I know that I'll be sending this to the school board, so let me say too, please put the name Finney on the East English Village School, because it rests on the property where the Finney barn rested, and the Finney family were abolitionists that rode escaped slaves across the river to Canada and freedom in the 1850s. So please change the name of that school back. Seymour Finney and John Brown and Frederick Douglass were all abolitionists that met right here in the city of Detroit. So change the name of that school back. And while you're at it, change the name of the school, Cass Technical High School, because Lewis Cass, you know, was a known racist. Change the name of Cass Technical High School to William Joseph Robinson Technical High School. Will Robinson, probably the greatest basketball coach who ever coached basketball in the state of Michigan at the high school level. Okay, here's the poem. Here's the poem about the great gray ghost, who lived between 1942 and 2015. We lost Henry in 2015. Hannibal and Balthazar, that's the first line of the poem. These were two African men, Hannibal and Balthazar. Balthazar was one of the three kings, and Hannibal, you know, everybody knows who Hannibal was. He crossed the Alps with elephants. Hannibal and Balthazar cast him stardust from a star. He was famed from near and far, Olympic sprinter Henry Carr. Now, I can tell you a story about Henry, because we're talking about track. I'm going to tell this story about Henry. Henry's coach at Northwestern High School brought him over to me. That was a hurdler from Michigan was the coach. And again, I'm forgetting names, so I'm not even going to try to remember it. But he brought him over to me to work with. Now, Henry really didn't need any work because he was already, you know, I think that Henry, when he was a junior at Northwestern High School, was probably already the fastest human being on 2 feet. But he brought him over to me to work on his finish, and he wanted me to run him in a quarter mile because he had been running 100 and 220. So he wanted me to see if I could train him for the quarter mile. So I did. I gave him some instructions on how to run the quarter mile, and basically the instructions I put him in a spare lane. It was Southeastern versus Eastern, and I put him in a spare lane, and I said, okay, run to those goalposts as fast as you can. And then when you get past that goalpost, run to those goalposts almost as fast as you can. And then after you pass those goalposts, come back here as fast as you can. That's what I told him to do. And he did. His blocks slipped. I looked at the stopwatch, 47 and 8/10 seconds. First and only time the kid ever ran the quarter mile. Just ran the fastest high school quarter mile ever run in the state of Michigan in a pickup dual meet. And I had been taking him through two 20-yard straightaways with my good, really great runners that I had at Southeastern. We were taking two 20-yard straightaways. And we were doing them 22-2, 22-3, 21-9. He's got his sweat clothes on. My kids are dropping back. Now, mind you, this is the year 1960. He was a junior at Northwestern. And I was ranked nationally at 220 or 200 meters then. I was ranked. I was also ranked in the quarter mile. I was making a comeback. I was 24 years old. I'm running my butt off trying to catch up with this kid, and I couldn't. I couldn't keep up with him. And I was saying to myself, what is this? What have we here? So I went to my old coach, Jim Stout, down at the school center building, because he was the athletic director then. He had coached at Denby. And I said, Coach, I want to take Henry Carr to the Olympic trials because I have qualified I had run a 46.7 400 meters to qualify, meet, and Henry had run 20.6, which took a tenth of a second off of Jesse Owens' high school record. So he said he can't go. I said, why can't he go? 25-mile radius. He'll be ineligible his senior year. And I said, you're not going to make the Olympic champion ineligible his senior year. He said, what are you smoking? This kid's not going to win the Olympics. I said, oh, yes, he is. I've never seen anything like this. Well, I went to his father. I said, Mr. Carr, can I take Henry to the Olympic trials? What does Mr. Stout say? He says he can't. Well, then I got to say he can't too. So he did not go to the Olympics. Livio Berruti won in the Olympics, and 3 years later I beat Livio Berruti. I beat him I had already beaten him. I beat him in 1957. I beat him in Ancona, Italy. He was only 19 years old then. But what does Henry Carr do in 1964, which he would have done in 1960? He wins the Olympic 200 meters in world record time, runs on the 4x4 relay team. This is the last time that the Olympics were contested on a dirt track. It was in Tokyo, and he ran, I think it was 44.3.
So you're saying he would have beat him if he'd have went the first time?
Yeah, and then he comes back to the States and turns pro. Played professional football for the New York Giants. Gets hurt. Gets traded. Made all pro though before that happened, and gets traded to the Detroit Lions. Doesn't pass the physical, and that was the end of his career. He would have. Go ahead.
You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
Okay, and we are interviewing Dr. Claude Tiller, the Assistant Superintendent for High Schools in the Detroit Public Schools Community District. And Claude, I recall that you were my ombudsman when I was the superintendent pro bono, and I'll never forget because I was getting nothing but great reports about what you were doing when you were ombudsman. You were settling all kinds of disputes out in the high schools, and after I wasn't superintendent anymore, all the things that happened, we got the Public Act 436 kicked in, and the emergency financial manager became emergency manager and promptly disempowered the good school board and fired me. But you then became superintendent in Benton Harbor, and we're doing a bang up job there. When the school district got taken over by the state, and that was the end. But now you're back in Detroit, and that's a wonderful thing. But I want to ask you this: what are your thoughts on the state of high school track and field in the state of Michigan today?
So I think I alluded to that prior, and just to piggyback on what you said, was doing some things there as an ombudsman, but I'm continuing to do the same things that I did working with the 11 high schools that I have now And I firmly believe track was also a part of that because it teaches you how to be an entrepreneur because you have to run your individual event. Then it teaches you how to be cooperative because you have to be on a relay team. So it combines both those qualities that make you the person that you are today. And as far as me being assistant superintendent, I truly believe is about relationships and it's not about positionships. And so many times that I was captain of the University of Michigan track and field team, and what's so wonderful about that is that I was voted by my peers.
Mm-hmm.
Reply.
So it wasn't something that was given to me. They have to watch you for 4 years, and my peers who watched me for 4 years do this, they voted me to be captain of the team of the 1989 track and field team. So I carried that same relationship and collaborative work ethic into this position that I am, and all that was born out of track and field. The state of track and field, I think I alluded to that, is coaching. Coaching to me, the old school coaches, if you will, the wiser coaches, they're going and they're just retiring and they're sitting down now. But what happens is, if you don't have a mentor or somebody that you can pass that knowledge on to of how to do and how to coach track, then it dies on the vine. Right. And that's what I'm seeing as we move forward. A lot of schools, they just out there. Kids, they don't know when somebody's running, for example, track etiquette. When somebody says track, you shouldn't be jogging on the inside of the lane. You should be jogging to the outside. Just simple track etiquette. And when somebody yells track, that means you're in their way. You're on the first lane and the inside. Get out the way. You jump to your right. I mean, simple things like that we were taught. Just simple track etiquette that I don't see across the board anymore.
Yeah, I was watching a track meet with my buddy Blaine Smith the other day, and a team, I think from Abilene Christian, got disqualified in the 4x4 relay for cutting off at the end. Mm. It cost, and they were running 3:05 too, okay, which was the same time that you guys ran, yes, back in the old days. But they got disqualified, and because the guy cut in too soon. And I can remember Cliff Hatcher did that one time when we were winning at the Ohio relay. So that was one time we used to win the Ohio mile relay every year. But that year we got disqualified because Cliff cut somebody off.
So is there anything you want to say to sum things up? The state of track. You said coaching is an issue and not having good coaches. So what do you want to add to that?
And also, what were some of your goals in track? What did you want to accomplish?
Well, very briefly, the goals in track is one thing, and that's to win.
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
That's what everything to
right.
win.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You didn't have anything more ambitious than that,
Right. Exactly. You can't be. So you got to train. If you get second, you got to train twice as hard. If you get third, you got to train 3 times as hard. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. Well, that's good philosophy. I had 2 goals, just 2. One was to win the Olympic 400, and the other one was to break the world record, the quarter mile. And I came within 0.3 of a second in the quarter mile. But I never won the Olympic 400, even though I beat the Olympic champion. The faster time that he won the Olympics, and that was Charlie Jenkins out of Villanova. But do I have time, Char, do I have time to read a Ritual of the Red Haze about a workout? Do I have time? Is there enough time?
Just about. Got a couple minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna read this, and you will appreciate this poem, Claude, because it's got. This is a workout that we used to take at Wayne State, because we had 4 guys. We had me, Bullet Billy Smith, Cliff Hatcher, and a guy from the British West Indies from St. Kitts. Oh, I'm taking too much time.
You're gonna use your time.
Yeah. Okay. Here's Ritual of the Red Haze. 4 times 330-yard runs, all of them scorchingly hot as 10 suns. Each run in 34 seconds apiece, and dashed back to back with scant rest without cease. After those dashes were sprinted and done, under the sweltering near summer sun, all we would see of our world for a while was a blood-bleary haze, so we'd puke up some bile, and still we'd see red
That's too simple.
with shooting pains ripping our rubbery thighs. These visceral runs stabbed me deep in my gut. That challenging, unworldly workout was what Billy and Ralphie and Clifford and I, and unhappy teammates who just happened by, described as our ritual of the red haze, with nothing but redness wherever we'd gaze. A test diabolic, created to craze. The mere thought of such madness could make a man cringe, or embark on a beer and potato chip binge. 'Twas indeed an ordeal designed to unhinge. Does that workout sound familiar to you?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Well, that's going to do it for us on that one. It was nice of you to join us.
Thank you.
This is a good show. Good show, Dr. Tiller.
You've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and co-host Charlotte Jones on WJZZ Detroit Internet Television, coming to you live every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Contact Dr. Telford at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Or at Dr. John Telford, EDD, at AOL.com. That's DRJOHNTELFORDEDD at AOL.com to sponsor or appear on this show, or to get signed copies of his book, which Hill Perkins, Jeffrey Feiger, and Dr. Wayne Dyer all call spellbinding and sensational. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Read Dr. Telford's commentaries on the schools and other vital topics in the Telford Telescope column in the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. And also hear him on his other station, WCHB AM 1340, every Saturday morning at 9:30 and Monday evening at 6:30. That's every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. and Monday evening at 6:30 p.m. on WCHB AM 1340. Tune in again next Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock to the John Telford Detroit Show here on WJZZ Cool TV with Dr. Telford and co-host Charlotte Jones. Thank you for listening to the John Telford Detroit Show.